Welcome back, Bobber Nation. It's a pleasure to see you again. 'Tis I, the Jimbobbington. And today, we're going to discuss some of the common complaints about the Indian Scout Bobber. And now that I've had a good 8 or so months with this bike, figured I can add my 2 cents, confirm or deny, and let you know what to expect if you're looking to buy one. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. There went an alarm. So let's talk about some of the common complaints that people have with the Indian Scout Bobber. Obviously, number 1 and 2, I guess, probably, are it has an uncomfortable seat and it has a poor rear suspension. These two kind of go hand in hand. The worse each one is, the worse each one feels. So let's start with the seat. For one, I've never had a motorcycle this size or similar that had a comfortable seat to begin with. I think it's kind of the norm for manufacturers to skimp on the seat because they expect you to upgrade it, or they want to offer an upgraded seat. Sure, it's good enough to deal with. Should you have to? No. In my opinion, I think the stock seat is ugly, which gives you an extra added bonus to upgrade it or change it out. But yeah, it's not the most comfortable thing. There's tons of options out there. Unfortunately, they're all expensive, and this day and age, they all take a long time to get. I upgraded my seat to the 1920 solely for looks. I also had some Indian motorcycle vouchers to help pad that cost. So it was kind of a no-brainer to upgrade to a OEM seat that I could use those vouchers on. And as an added bonus, the 1920 seat is actually slightly more comfortable than the OEM seat, which is kind of hard to believe. But the fact that it's wider, it is firmer and flatter, but it's a lot wider, and it spreads your weight out and gives you less pressure points. But it does change your seating position. It raises you up a little bit, leans you over a little bit more. So there's a lot more to think about when you're buying a new seat, aside from just comfort and looks. Suspension, like I said, kind of goes hand in hand by design on a bobber. Yeah, the shocks are not great. They only have 2 inches of travel to get you that lower look. I mean, not sure what you expect. I've heard the Fox shocks are a great upgrade. They're almost $1,000. But again, that's something you could use your Indian referral vouchers on and help pad that cost. I have not upgraded the shocks yet by simply adjusting the stock shocks, you can get quite a bit more comfort out of them. But at this point, I'm still not uncomfortable enough to want to spend $1,000 on some shocks. Another complaint is the tires. People say that the tires that the bobber comes with are fairly compromised when it comes to handling and performance. Now, the older models, I think the 2019s and earlier, maybe the 2018s and earlier, they came with Kendas. And from my understanding, those were horribly, horribly shit tires. They would get scalloped immediately, just wore like crap, uneven, terrible handling and grip performance, just bad tires all around. I'm assuming Polaris got an incredible deal on that partnership, but the Pirellis, the Pirellis that come on the newer models, I haven't had the Kendas, but obviously they're a higher tier. At first, I thought the Pirellis were fine. They handled pretty well. I had no concerns. But I did get caught in the rain one day, and they were not confidence-inspiring. And after I got tuned, I did a real nice clutchless shift into second gear one day and completely fishtailed, lost my rear traction. You know, a normal motorcycle with a quality tire, that rear tire will grip in those circumstances and your front end will lift. Not the case. So that now that I have 99 wheel horsepower, I have exceeded the limitations of the grip on these Pirellis, and I'm not so happy with them. So to a degree, yes, I do agree that the Pirellis are not the best tires, but for the beginner average rider, they're sufficient. So I don't think it's something you need to run out and replace before they're worn, but I would not put them back on again once it's time to replace them. Another common concern or complaint is that the stock headlight is trash. And yes, that's true. Whoever decided to put a halogen on a bike in the year 2021 was nuts. Trash, yellow light. I honestly have never ridden at night, but the halogen just looks crappy, outdated, and plenty of good options for $50 on Amazon that work great. They're not poor quality, anything like that. They're going to give you much better light output. Some people complain that the gas tank is too small. I don't feel that's a big deal for me. I'm not taking long highway cruises, cross country or anything like that. What, it fits 3.5 or so gallons. I get on average 48 to 50 miles to the gallon. I think that's not too shabby. If you're really looking for a highway cruiser, the bobber is probably not for you in the first place. There's plenty of options, extra fuel bottles you could strap on. It is what it is. Live with it or don't. If you want to be able to drive 500 miles on one tank of gas, you better be looking somewhere else. let's see. I'm going to throw some of my complaints in here, which are not very common, but they're stupid little nitpicky things that bug me. Number one, don't leave 500 QR code stickers all over the bike after you put it together. Peel those things off after you scan them. There's no reason I should still be finding QR codes to peel off this thing 8 months into ownership. Leave them on if you can't see them from the exterior, but pull them off if you can. Just a little gripe and a not quite finishing touch that I think they overlooked. Another dumb little thing that bothers me is this little MPH over the gear indicator. That bugs the shit out of me. Yes, I know the settings are set to miles per hour. I can tell. If I was doing 45 down a back road and my speedometer said I was doing 160, I can assume it's in kilometers. You don't need to constantly remind me that it's set in miles per hour, and it looks like I'm going 6 miles per hour. If you have it parked in first gear, it says 1 mile per hour. It looks stupid. Just dumb. On top of that, along the same lines, you've got your trip meter. And it says trip 1. There's no fucking trip 2. Why do you say trip 1? That may just be me. That's super nitpicky. But I think that's stupid. No fuel gauge. I concur. Although, once again, I've never had a motorcycle that had a fuel gauge. You get your light. Sometimes you're lucky if you get a light at all. And that light tells you you better get to a gas station real quick before you're stranded. Yeah, I feel like that's some modern technology that nothing should be without at this point. But again, that light comes on, just fuel. No big deal. It's not a make it or break it type ordeal. Some people complain, or they think that the bobber looks small. I don't know. If you're a gigantic 6.5 foot person, you're going to look big on anything. Get over it. You've been ducking to get through doorways your whole life. Fucking deal with it. I don't think the bobber looks small. I'm 5'11", 185 pounds. I mean, I think my build is probably the perfect size for it. But I've seen 5-foot girls on sport bikes they can barely touch the ground on. And I've seen 400-pound people on a 650. If you're little, you look little on stuff. If you're big, you look big on stuff. Fucking get over it. What else? What else? Lots of people complain that they get false neutrals when they're shifting between first and second. I think we've all had that a time or two. Sure, I've had it happen on this bike. That's because you didn't stick it into second good enough, and it pops out. Or your shift lever is not adjusted correctly, and you're not getting enough leverage on it to get it all the way in gear, and you hit that throttle and it pops out. Most of that, I would say, is user error. I have not experienced anything on this bike that makes me feel like there's something wrong with the transmission or gear shift or anything like that. Get better. Get better at driving. A lot of people complain about oil seepage when the bike is brand new. I didn't really have any noticeable oil leakage when the bike was brand new, but from my understanding, reading a lot of group and forum posts about people having this issue and lots of people answering them. Seems like a pretty normal thing. They put a really lightweight oil in the bike for the first 500-mile break-in, and all the gaskets and everything haven't been correctly seated 100%, and things are going to seep out. That's what the 500-mile service is for. They tighten the shit out of everything all over again, inspect all that sort of stuff, and put the correct weight oil in, and you should be good to go. If you've got a tiny little drop running down the cylinder here and there, and you're under the 500-mile service, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Foot controls. I think that's kind of an interesting one. For the bobber, I believe they decided to do a bit reduced reach on the foot controls compared to the Scout. That may have been a mistake. The majority of people actually do extended foot controls on the bobber, partially because they're bigger than they think they should be for the bike and things like that. I did it. One of the most comfortable mods that I've done, and I freaking love them. But that may have been a mistake from the factory to actually reduce the foot control reach for the bobber. Another one of my complaints that I don't hear very often from others is the self-canceling turn signals. Can't figure them out at all. Sometimes they cancel, sometimes they don't. They're really at a point where you can't rely on them to cancel themselves. I haven't figured out the logic to try to force them to cancel on my own when they don't, or anything like that. Honestly, so I drove a Harley Sportster, a 2019 Harley Sportster 1200 for a month and a half before I got this bike delivered. And honestly, the self-canceling blinkers were the only thing that motorcycle did better than this one. Just something to note. I mean, don't even put them in if they don't work like you'd expect them to. I don't know. Can't really think of any other complaints right off the top of my head here. So I guess we'll leave it at that. To summarize, all of these things are either one, fixable, or two, don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. A lot of those things, even if you liked the stock seat, thought it was comfortable, I bet you 75% of people are still going to change it out for something else. It doesn't matter whether they like it or not. Same with handlebars, foot controls, levers, grips, all those sorts of things. The majority of people are going to change that stuff out whether they like it or not. Because that's what we do. We tinker. We want to feel involved in our motorcycle build. We want to change things up, try different things. It is what it is. People are going to complain no matter what about something. All of these things don't make a difference to me. If it bothered me, I fixed it. If it's not fixable, it's not important. And Union Scout Bobber is a fantastic motorcycle. So I don't know if any of that is helpful at all. But this is Jimbobbington, sharing my thoughts and feelings with you, the viewer. And I hope you get some value out of this content. So once again, thanks for watching. If you enjoy this content, give me a like. Throw me a subscribe. Subscribes are really how I know you appreciate me. But until next time, remind you, once again, don't be a skipper.